At some point between waking up and pouring your first cup of coffee, something dangerous could be silently happening in your brain, and you may not even realize it. For millions of older adults in the US, every morning brings a hidden warning sign of stroke, and most people miss it. Why? Because the habits that trigger this danger seem completely normal, even healthy. But new data shows that 8 out of 10 people over 60 are unknowingly increasing their stroke risk within just the first few hours of the day, long before the clock strikes 9 a.m. What's alarming is that a single seemingly harmless action like sitting too long in bed, forgetting to drink water, or sipping coffee too early can push the body into a state that promotes blood clots, brain fog, or even raises the risk of memory loss. And what may surprise you even more, the threat doesn't come from illness. It comes from habit. In the next few minutes, I'll walk you through 5 common morning mistakes that millions of people repeat every single day, mistakes that could be silently damaging your brain. And just by fixing one of them, you could cut your stroke risk in half. I'll also share a true story about a man who nearly lost everything because of one innocent morning routine. This could be the most important message you hear all week, because the way you start your morning may determine how long you'll keep your clarity, your health, and your independence. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, I strongly encourage you to hit that button now and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any health tips designed specifically for you. And if you find this video helpful, type the number 1 in the comments. If you think I could do better, type 0 so I know how to improve and serve you better next time. Morning habit number 1: sitting too long after waking up. While scrolling on your phone or watching TV, you might think you're just easing into the day, enjoying a bit of quiet time before getting started. But the truth is, sitting still on your bed or sofa for 20, 30, even 40 minutes after waking up, especially while scrolling through social media or watching the morning news, could silently be putting you at risk for a stroke, and you wouldn't even know it. As a neurologist with over 30 years of experience treating older adults, I can tell you this is one of the most dangerous morning habits I see, and it's far more common than you might think. While you sleep, your heart rate and blood pressure drop, and your blood naturally thickens a bit. That's completely normal. But once you wake up, your body needs a circulatory wake-up call to get blood and oxygen moving again, especially to the brain. However, if you just stay sitting still after opening your eyes, your body doesn't get that critical signal to start circulating blood effectively. Thicker morning blood that isn't being moved through the body can start to pool, creating the perfect conditions for blood clots to form. And if your arteries are already less flexible due to age, this becomes even more dangerous. Those clots, if they break loose and travel to the brain, can cause damage in seconds and change your life forever. One of my patients, Margaret, age 71, came to see me after experiencing some strange symptoms in the morning. She said her vision got blurry, her arm felt weak, and her speech was suddenly off. But because the symptoms faded quickly, she didn't think much of it. When I asked about her morning routine, it turned out she often spent nearly half an hour in bed scrolling through Facebook before getting up. After running some tests, we found she had suffered 2 transient ischemic attacks, mini strokes. Had she not come in when she did the next one, might not have been mini. It could have taken her ability to speak, move, or even taken her life. Staying still in the morning may seem harmless, but it's actually starving your brain just when it needs blood flow the most. And once a blood clot forms, there's no rewind button. And if you're thinking your morning cup of coffee is a safe next step, hold that thought. You'll want to hear what really happens when you take that first sip without drinking any water or eating something first. If you're still with me and finding this information helpful, drop a number 1 in the comments so I know you're here, because what's coming next is even more important. Morning habit number 2: drinking coffee on an empty stomach. Most older adults I've spoken with start their day with a warm cup of coffee. It's a familiar, comforting ritual, and for some, it even feels like a sacred morning tradition. But if you're drinking that coffee on an empty stomach, especially early in the morning, I need you to understand just how risky this seemingly harmless habit can be. When you consume coffee while your stomach is completely empty, it doesn't just help you wake up. In reality, caffeine triggers a strong release of stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol. These hormones can spike your heart rate, tighten your blood vessels, and cause your blood pressure to rise suddenly, right when your body is still trying to stabilize after a night of rest. Now imagine that happening inside the body of someone over 65, where the arteries have already stiffened with age and the circulatory system runs slower. That simple cup of coffee can become the spark for a cardiovascular event that's just waiting to happen. I remember a patient named Arthur, a retired police officer age 69 who came to see me about 3 months ago. He told me that every morning after his second cup of coffee, he felt his heart pounding, his chest tightening, and waves of panic setting in, so much so that he feared he was having a heart attack. After a full cardiac workup, we found no blockages. But the truth was, his habit of drinking coffee on an empty stomach was triggering repeated adrenaline surges, causing his blood pressure to spike and his blood to thicken, creating the perfect setup for a clot. His only mistake? Drinking coffee without eating every morning. And once I advised him to simply eat something small like half a banana or a boiled egg before his coffee, everything changed. No more racing heart, no more anxiety, just calm mornings and steady blood pressure. It might sound too simple, but for older adults, this small adjustment can mean the difference between a peaceful morning and an emergency room visit. When your stomach is empty, caffeine is absorbed more quickly, more intensely, and with less control. Younger bodies can compensate thanks to a more flexible nervous and cardiovascular system. But after 60, especially if you have high blood pressure or heart rhythm issues like atrial fibrillation, that caffeine jolt can upset the fragile balance and lead to arrhythmias or even a stroke. So before you take that first sip of coffee tomorrow morning, ask yourself, have I eaten anything yet? Have I created a cushion of safety for my brain and heart? But this is only part of the story. Even if you've had something to eat, there's a good chance you're still taking in hidden sodium that's silently stiffening your arteries, and it might be coming from your own pantry. Let's talk about that next. Morning habit number 3. Starting the day with healthy foods that are actually packed with hidden sodium. For years, we've been told that breakfast should include things like whole wheat toast, instant oatmeal, or bran muffins. And for many older adults trying to take care of their heart and brain health, these options sound like the right choice. But what if I told you that these very foods, often labeled as heart healthy, may actually be quietly increasing your risk of stroke every single day without you realizing it? The truth is, many popular American breakfast foods contain surprisingly high levels of hidden sodium. For example, just one flavored packet of instant oatmeal can contain over 250 milliliters of sodium, and that's before you add anything to it. A seemingly healthy bran muffin may have 300 milliliters or more. And if you top your toast with a slice of deli turkey or a piece of low-fat cheese, your sodium total can easily go over 600 milliliters before 9 a.m. That might not sound alarming until you understand how sodium affects the aging body. When you consume too much sodium, your blood vessels, especially the small delicate ones that supply your brain, begin to stiffen and narrow. Morning blood pressure spikes, your blood thickens, and a perfect storm for clot formation begins to build, putting your brain at serious risk. I remember a patient named Judith, 76 years old, a widowed woman living independently and very proud of her clean eating habits. Every morning, she had a bowl of flavored instant oatmeal, a banana, and a slice of whole wheat toast. But then she started experiencing severe headaches mid-morning and when she came in, her blood pressure had shot up to 160/95 within just 30 minutes of breakfast. We reviewed her entire morning routine, and the problem wasn't her coffee. It was the healthy breakfast she'd been eating for years. When we swapped the flavored oatmeal for plain rolled oats and replaced the toast with a mix of fresh fruit and a few low-sodium nuts, her blood pressure dropped more than 20 points in just 1 week. She looked at me and said, "I had no idea I was silently poisoning my brain with breakfast." And that's what worries me most. Most people don't know because the food doesn't taste salty. They don't feel the danger, so they assume everything is fine. But for an aging brain, this hidden sodium is a silent attack every morning aimed directly at your most vital blood vessels. If you truly want to protect your memory and mental clarity, start by protecting your breakfast. Read the labels. Try to keep your sodium intake under 300 mg before lunch. Your arteries will thank you, and so will your memory and balance. And now let's talk about a part of your morning that almost no one brings up. Because chances are, you're not just drinking sodium in the morning, you might also be doubling your caffeine intake without realizing how it's affecting your stomach, your nervous system, and your brain. Let's get into that next. If you're still with me and finding this information valuable, drop a number 1 in the comments so I know you're here. Now let's move on to morning habit number 4. Morning habit number 4. Drinking coffee before eating anything at all. For many Americans especially, those over 60, coffee isn't just a drink. It's a morning ritual, a familiar comfort, a way to ease into the day with something warm and predictable. That first sip often brings a sense of clarity, energy, and a clearer mind. But if you're drinking coffee before putting even a bite of food in your stomach, you could be putting your entire circulatory system, your heart and your brain under silent, extreme stress. And most people don't even realize it until it's too late. When you drink coffee on an empty stomach, especially early in the morning, caffeine enters your bloodstream very quickly. This triggers a surge of 2 powerful stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol, what we call the fight or flight hormones. Almost instantly, your heart starts pounding. Blood vessels tighten, and your brain, which is just waking up after a night of slower blood flow, is suddenly hit with a wave of stress hormones and reduced oxygen. This imbalance, combined with naturally thicker morning blood due to overnight dehydration, creates the perfect setup for blood clots to form, especially in older adults. And if those clots move to the brain or heart, the outcome can be life-altering or even fatal. I'm reminded of Frank, a 72-year-old retired accountant. He came in after experiencing strange morning episodes, pounding, heart dizziness, nausea, almost like mini panic attacks. He feared he was developing heart disease. But when I looked closely at his routine, the issue wasn't his heart, it was his coffee. 2 large cups of strong black coffee every morning on an empty stomach. That was the trigger. That caffeine burst was overloading his nervous system. We didn't need medication, we just changed one thing. I advised him to eat half a banana or a small handful of nuts before his first cup and to wait at least 20-30 minutes before the second. After just 1 week, all his symptoms disappeared. He looked at me and said, "Doc, I thought I was dying every morning. I had no idea it was my own habit causing it." Here's the truth: as we age, our bodies don't recover from physiological stress the way they used to. A 30-year-old might skip breakfast and dive straight into coffee without a problem. But at 70, that same routine can cost you your clarity, your independence, or worse. Your brain in the first hour after waking is incredibly sensitive. Don't shock it awake. Start gently with a little food first, and then enjoy your familiar cup of coffee. However, even if you fix this one habit, there's still one more very common mistake, one I've seen many older adults ignore until it's too late. A small, seemingly harmless action that may actually be the brain's final warning sign. Let me explain right after this. Morning habit number 5. Ignoring morning dizziness. Slurred speech or tingling fingers could cost you more than you think. There's something unsettling about waking up and feeling like something's just off. But what's even more concerning is brushing it off, telling yourself it's just part of getting older. I've lost count of how many times patients have said to me, "Doctor, it only lasted a few minutes. I figured it was nothing." But when it comes to the brain, there is no such thing as nothing. Symptoms like slurred speech, weakness in the arm, mild tingling, or feeling lightheaded when you first get up might actually be your brain's final warning before a full-blown stroke. These aren't signs of normal fatigue, they're classic signs of a transient ischemic attack, or TIA, a mini-stroke. This happens when a small clot temporarily blocks blood flow to the brain. Even if that blockage clears on its own, damage can still occur. Studies show that 1 in 3 people who experience a TIA will go on to have a major stroke within 90 days, and in many cases within just 48 hours. Let me tell you about Lorraine, a 70-year-old retired school principal. She came in after noticing that she was having trouble speaking clearly in the morning. Her words slowed down and felt off for about 67 minutes. She also felt some numbness in her arm. But when the symptoms faded after her morning coffee, she assumed it wasn't urgent. When I examined her, the warning signs were clear. She had already experienced 2 unnoticed mini-strokes. We got her on a stroke prevention plan immediately, but I couldn't stop thinking how close she came to losing her speech, her mobility, or worse, all because she thought it was just morning grogginess. You know your body better than anyone else. If something feels off, trust that feeling. Dizziness, blurred vision, slurred speech, tingling, or sudden weakness in an arm are not minor. They are your brain calling for help, demanding immediate attention before it's too late. If you experience even a brief episode, write down the time note what happened and call your doctor. Better yet, tell someone close to you. When it comes to stroke, every second counts. The faster you act, the better your chances of full recovery. After everything you've just heard, you might be wondering, how can I change this? How do I adjust my mornings to protect my brain and lower my stroke risk? Here's the truth. You don't have to change everything overnight. Start with just one thing, a single habit, a small moment tomorrow morning that puts your brain on a safer path. And here's how to begin. Morning habit number 6. Instead of trying to change everything at once, start with one small specific step. After hearing about all the hidden dangers of your morning routine, from sudden blood pressure spikes and silent clot formation to fleeting symptoms that could quickly become emergencies, it's completely normal to feel overwhelmed. I've seen many older patients reach that point. They want to take action to protect their health, but because they don't know where to begin, they end up doing nothing. But here's the most important thing to remember: you don't need to overhaul your entire morning in one night to protect your brain. In fact, trying to change too much at once often leads to burnout, frustration, and eventually giving up. What matters most isn't perfection, it's consistency. I think of Glenn, a 75-year-old Vietnam veteran I've been treating for the past year. He struggled with morning dizziness, unusually high blood pressure, and occasional tingling in his right hand, enough to seriously worry him. When we reviewed his morning habits, he realized he was making nearly every mistake I've just described: drinking coffee on an empty stomach, skipping water, eating high-sodium cereal, and sitting in bed too long before starting his day. But he didn't panic. Instead, he picked one small change every morning. The very first thing he did was drink a glass of room-temperature water, about 8 ounces. No coffee, no food, just water. Within 2 weeks, his dizziness had improved significantly. After a month, his morning blood pressure had dropped by 15 points, a remarkable result. And that progress gave him the motivation to keep going. Step by step, he built a stable, simple, and effective morning routine. Today, he no longer deals with tingling or scary symptoms at all. Why did it work? Because that one small change reduced strain on his heart and brain, improved blood flow, lowered the risk of clotting, and helped keep his nervous system steady during the most vulnerable time of day, right after waking up. Scientifically, it makes perfect sense. Small, steady adjustments help regulate your bodies. Natural rhythms improve vessel flexibility, stabilize blood pressure, and most importantly, prevent the formation of dangerous clots that can travel to the brain. So, tomorrow morning, what will you change? Maybe you'll wait 90 seconds before getting out of bed, or eat a small bite before drinking your coffee, or swap instant oatmeal for a less processed rolled oat version. Whatever it is, do it. Not next week, not when you have time. Start tomorrow. Because here's what I always tell my patients: your brain doesn't need grand promises. It needs small, consistent actions, especially in that very first hour after you open your eyes. And if you're still unsure what a stroke-safe morning should actually look like, don't worry. I'm going to walk you through it step by step. Exactly 5 simple steps I give to every patient over 60, and you'll see it's easier than you think. Protect your morning because that's how you protect your brain and your future. One thing I've learned after decades as a neurologist is a stroke is rarely sudden. It's the result of quiet buildup rooted in daily habits, especially those repeated every morning until your brain simply can't take it anymore. For those over 60, seemingly harmless habits, like lingering in bed too long after waking up, drinking coffee before eating, choosing a high-sodium breakfast, ignoring brief moments of dizziness, or simply forgetting to drink water, can quietly raise your risk of stroke. Each of these small actions directly impacts how blood flows to the brain, making it easier for clots to form, blood pressure to spike, and blood vessels to become inflamed, especially when the circulatory system has already weakened with age. The good news is you still have the power to change. Preventing a stroke doesn't require perfection. What matters is understanding that how you live in that first hour of the morning sets the tone for your entire day, from brain health to mental clarity, memory, and communication. So start with one small step. Choose one simple change and commit to it, then share that commitment with a friend or write it down. Remember, you're not just adding years to your life, you're preserving your quality of life, your ability to think clearly, speak easily, and be present with the people you love. The next time you wake up in the morning, remind yourself you are not powerless. Your brain is paying attention to every choice you make, and tomorrow is your chance to start protecting it intentionally. What you've just heard isn't just for your information, it's meant to inspire you to live more fully, more mindfully. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What part of today's message got you thinking? What's one thing you'd like to start doing for yourself? Let's support each other on this journey toward better, more meaningful health. If you found this video helpful, type the number 1 in the comments. If not, feel free to leave a 0 and share your thoughts. Your feedback truly matters to us. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you won't miss future content that's designed just for you. Thank you for watching, and here's to a life that's truly worth living.